All right, video begins. Hello. We are talking today about how to build effective pawns and how to make your team composition not suck. Um, this this is kind of a necessary video for people who don't understand how pawns work in this game. The pawn is your ride or die. It is everything. You can see here my girl Cassandra is fully maxed out in every discipline. I've taken the time to do this specifically because I want the augments that each vocation has that can be pulled into other vocations to make basically a god tier character. Um, so I run her basically on Thief, and the reason I do this is for these two skills, Plunder and Implicate, which are two of the most useful skills in the game to have from your pawn. In the videos here, you can see Implicate is the upgraded form of Ensnare that will literally pull enemies down and knock them prone. And this actually synergizes with Plunder so that when an enemy is prone, you can fucking rob them. And if you haven't used Plunder on a pawn or yourself as your main character yet, you have to understand that at higher levels, this skill from certain enemies will be stealing things like fairy stones. Like you're going to be pulling items that would normally cost you like 10,000 gold. When you're fighting drakes and lesser dragons, you can be stealing worm's blood, which can be used for upgrades. So personally, I run Cassandra here as a thief with plunder and implicate, so she can pull stuff down out of the sky, which is always annoying. Harpies are the worst. Nobody likes having harpies. And then plunder them for all they're worth. I run her simple forager. So the traits are very important for team composition. I'll get into that in a second. So I'm running simple forager on her because there are certain traits that work better together. So if you look at what some of the inclinations do, so you can see the description underneath where it says simple, curious, earnest, and adventurous, enjoys exploring and gathering items. This synergizes perfectly with forager. The pawn who acquires the skill will mark locations of enhancement materials on the map. I'm pretty sure there's a passive for forager that also makes them gather things more effectively. So it's like if you combine these traits together, you can derive some pretty effective combinations. Another good one is straightforward chirurgeon on a combat character, for example, because they're always going to be in the fight and will be able to like apply items because that's the chirurgeon specialty is they can use items on everybody. They'll be able to use them in the thick of the fight on you and other characters. Like it's important to pay attention to how the traits synergize with team comp because you're going to ideally want different trait combinations for each of the pawns in your team. Okay, now we're going to go into the rift and we're going to check out some people's pawns and I will explain what I mean with most people don't know how to build their goddamn pawns. So we're going to come in here. I've got Cassandra, my girl, my ride or die. She is maxed out on everything and has a perfect thief composition for stealing items for people. Funny enough, she doesn't get a lot of use because people don't fucking understand that. Let's look at some pawns here, and
I
I'll tell you
felt
what's
certain
wrong
I
with
would
them.
find you here, Arisen. And it seems I was right.
Straightforward woodland wordsmith is something I'd be interested in. It's always useful to find an elvish speaker on the team because otherwise it's just gibberish to you. But let's look at their stuff. So here, okay, we're looking at someone who is only playing a caster pawn. So they haven't leveled up any of the other vocations here. They're starting to work on thief. That's fine. Maybe this is a new character. Maybe they focused on mage stuff first because they wanted an effective caster pawn. I get it. Not bad. A lot of the side vocations, like it's important to level up every vocation on your pawn because when you're looking at the augments, so if I go into my pawn here, can I see my augments without? I think I can. So if I go to Cassandra and I show you her vocation and I go to my augments, so not all of these are thief augments. In fact, most of them aren't. Apro Apotropism. Pasm, okay, that word, is a mage augment. This is a fighter augment. Um, this is an archer augment, I believe. So it's like these different things I've pulled by maxing out my other disciplines. This is very important to do for your pawns so that you can use those towards your stats. Let's have a look at my stats versus Cassandra's stats. She's actually a tougher bitch than me. So, like, strength 6'7, 6'7", defense 6'7". This is my character. This is my main character. Check out Cassandra's stats. And yes, I've upgraded a little bit more of her armor, but we're wearing comparative gear. My gear is actually a little better than hers. It's interesting the way that you can build your pawns to be absolute hammers. And she's statted out more effectively than I am and does a lot of fucking damage, like a lot. I've seen her solo Cyclopses. So the composition of the augments, the skills, stuff like that on pawns. Let's have a look at this
Take
fighter
me
pawn
as your
here.
shield, Arisen. Upon my
Right?
fighter's pride, no foe
Kind-hearted
shall harm
woodland
you while I
wordsmith.
yet
Okay,
stand.
good. The other thing is the different inclinations have different voices. Because I play in immersion mode, it's very useful for me to have three pawns all who have different inclinations because the voices are different. So it's easy for me to tell who's speaking with the subtitles off, or if I'm playing with the subtitles on, I want to be able to get that audio cue from a pawn being like, oh, it's this pawn talking when they say something, being like, hey, follow me over here. I know who to pay attention to. Okay, so this is a good fighter pawn. They have an upgraded blink strike or compass slash or springboard. Not great. Maybe they're still leveling the pawn. Yeah, level 7 fighter. They're still working on it. It's fine. But Riotous Fury is a great fighter skill. If you have a pawn that you're looking at as a fighter and they don't have Riotous Fury, probably look at another pawn. Check out the augments. Okay, so they've at least got some augments in here, some from different disciplines that they've done. Like, again, this is a mage one. Good, good. So this is a pawn I would look at hiring for sure. Leiden. Let's look at their Arisen. Usually, if the pawn's together, the Arisen doesn't suck. Yeah, so this is a well-built Arisen with an endgame weapon. Nice. So you can kind of see. Let's look for a bad pawn, someone who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, because there's a lot of those kicking around
You're
too.
a welcome sight, Arisen.
Uh,
As ever.
is this one of them? Nope. This person knows
I'm
what they're doing. You can kind of see it. Usually, stupid names are an indicator. Uh, poorly designed pawns usually
I've
an
a modest
indicator.
talent for spotting materials that can be used to an.
Do forgive me, Master,
Oh,
but
that's
I've not
mine.
learned anything useful of...
Let's see.
'Tis a pleasure to meet you.
Okay. There's a couple different ways that I like to see mages. This is actually a good idea
You are
to,
wise
to have a look
indeed
at
to
one of
have
these
sought
guys
my
here.
aid.
So a mage build, for me, has to have a couple things. So I want to see High Halidom on any mage pawn, whether I'm using it myself or pulling a mage from another person. I also really like to see High Paladin. Let's see if I can find someone with an ideal mage build here. What about Cam?
I happen to understand Elvish, Master.
Bold
I expect
choice,
you.
male voice on a female frame. So this is a bad mage to me. I would not hire this mage. So basic flag, lev, fire boon, almost useless in endgame content. No Halidom, no paladin,
Find
like
my.
like no shield, no cure. It's there's you start
Pleased
looking
to
for
make your
certain skills,
acquaintance.
right? So this is another thief. Let's see if they've built properly. So this thief is built for minor damage. Like, yeah, they're doing damage. This is a damage thief. I get it. You can kind of
You can
like you
count on
kind
me
of
to
can
side
see
to your aid
people's
in your hour
builds
of need,
when
Master.
you've played enough. Ah, so this is better. So I'd be looking at this something like this for my end game healer character in my party. So you want this so you can cure statuses. Huge end game. Pion is always nice to see. Stamina recovery and speed are huge. Sucker is always great to see, although I prefer Paladin, which is the shield one. And I always want to see an affinity on a character like that. Or like You can sub affinity for like a damage spell.
I pray my efforts aid your cause.
But yeah, so it's like just looking at different pawns is a huge part of the game because you want to get your team
I
comp
felt
right.
certain I would find you here, Arisen. And it seems I was... right.
Come on, does nobody use the shield skill? It's fucking amazing. Here, I'll pull one of the ones that I have favorited just to show you. Let's see, search for pawn, view favorited. All right, let's pull her. I think she had some pretty good skills. Okay, where are you? Where are you fucker? Right here.
I'm glad to see you in such fine fettle, Arisen.
So this is one that I've been using in my party for a while. So this is a pretty good end game mage comp. Still doesn't have the shield skill I'm looking for. Does anyone have that skill anymore? Am I gonna have to fucking set it myself just to show people? What about the slutty Daenerys Targaryen that I was using as part of my party?
Tis an honor to see you again, Arisen.
Some people really slut their characters out, and it's like, all right, well, fair. There it is, Palladium. So this is one of the skills I like to see on an endgame mage. These two specifically paired together. This is actually perfect. I adventured with slutty Daenerys Targaryen for quite a while, and it's because this character is perfectly built to be a support character. So if you have a party, like what I'll usually do is I'll run my character with whatever the hell I want because it really doesn't matter. It really makes zero difference what you're running. It's your party comp with your pawns that makes the huge difference. I'll run double thief, so I'll find another thief that's built the way Cassandra is built with plunder and implicate, so they can constantly be duo pulling stuff down onto the ground and then robbing it. So the amount of loot you get from a double thief and then a support character like this build with your character doing whatever the fuck it pleases is crazy. Like the utility and the amount of loot you get is wild. And it's all about how you build the characters individually in your party. So imagine two thief characters that are built the way that I showed you Cassandra's built, with these buffs constantly cycling on them. They're basically invincible. And if you're running something like Mystic Spear Hand with the shield ability, you can just sit there in the middle of the fight and spam shield while this character is buffing the fuck out of everything and curing, and the thieves just go to town. It's interesting the way you can change your party comps, but you have to understand how the different types of characters work. Here, let me see. I've got a few pawns here saved that are actually well built. I'll show you a couple of them. So Eve is a really well built archer, I believe. Let's see. This is one that I saved because I was like, oh, that's a well built archer.
You can count on me to fly to your aid in your hour
Also
of need,
cool
Master.
looking character, which
Knowing
is
when
important. So yeah, check this out. So with archers, there are loaded arrow skills that require consumables. Those are your explosive shot, your drenching shot, etc., tarring shot. I would never create an archer character that requires input from the person hiring them of consumables, because most people would be like, yo, fuck that. I'm not going to fuel this character. I'll get one that does it for free. With these skills, so Manifold Shot is a free skill, doesn't require consumables. Deathly Arrow is a free skill, doesn't require consumables. Same with Heavenly Shot, which is the Maester skill, useful to see. Tempest Shot. This is a perfectly built archer. Check out the augments here. So knockdown resistance huge, knockdown power huge. Personally, I run the rings for these two, so I can run different augments on my main character. Huge breaking guard, huge maximum health, huge stamina recovery speed. I run similar builds to this on my character. So like, again, look, you can tell this is a well-built character because they've maxed out every vocation. So this is an example of a very, very well-built pawn. Hilariously, people can't see the value. This is a very low rating comparatively, right? So I save characters like this on my list that I know are perfectly built. And it's important to understand how to build pawns and what is a good pawn. This is one I saw of a perfectly built warrior. I'll show you guys right now. so your team comp can be effective, right? Because there's a lot of ways to fuck this pig. There's a lot of different ways to build your team. And it's just a question
You
of
look
like,
upon me so
can you make the
expectantly.
thing work?
Are we acquainted?
This is, again, maxed every vocation, so you can tell the person's put the work in. Mountain Breaker, great skill. Arc of Might, the Maester skill. Tidal Wrath, great counter skill. Windstorm Slash is probably the best skill that this class has. So you see this character is well built, proper skills, good augments, right? The person's put the work in to get all the other augments from different vocations. You look at the stats on this fucking character, insane strength. So this person is bringing the heat, right? With that fully upgraded Dragon Blood sword. Like, shit's gonna get real if you have this person in your party. But because it's a question of choice, and this is just another character in the game that you can choose or not, that one's pretty high level, so hiring it would require a level that's higher than mine or a lot of RC. Um, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So here's one of the other thieves that I use because
You're
they
a welcome
built
sight,
their
Arisen.
thief very,
As ever.
very similar to mine. Implicate, plunder. Formless Feint is good to have on because it will make your thief like invulnerable basically. And Skull Splitter is their damage skill, so you always want to see that on a thief.
I'm
So what I would do basically is run these two characters as my damage dealers and technically tanks because they're kind of blink tanks, kind of, you know, knockdown tanks where they're just holding everything down and, you know, robbing it on the ground. And then I would hire the Daenerys Targaryen lookalike that I showed you earlier, and that would be my team. So I find that team comp is important, but fluid in this game, and you can
I shall
basically
be your
compose your
shadow.
team with anything that works for you around your character and your playstyle. There's a lot of different ways to approach this game. Play how you want, play how you feel, but there are things that do work better. So if you're looking to like min max, I would pay again special attention to a few things, starting with stats of pawns, very important. Skills of pawns, primary importance. Always check their augments. So if you look at a pawn and they've got one skill and no augments, it's because someone's ignoring that pawn and doesn't know how to play the game. Also, the traits. Look for trait combinations. And keep in mind that the different inclinations also have different voices. So if you want a little bit more of like a proper audio feel to your game, try to get different pawns of different inclinations because it'll sound like your party is different people instead of getting like all kind-hearted or all simple pawns and then they all sound exactly the same, which is kind of weird for me at least. I don't know how it is for other people. But yeah, so this is just a quick little tutorial on how to build pawns, how to do your team comp, how to, you know, make things not suck.
This ladder can
The
take us to
idea
new heights.
of earning RC, like you need to make your pawn attractive to other people. So if people can't look at your pawn, like I was looking at pawns in the rift there and being like, oh yeah, this pawn fucks, you know, like this is a good character that is well built. Like the reason I've given Cassandra these four skills is because of the effect they have on the field when we're fighting. I want her to be fast and moving around quickly so she has cutting wind. I want Skull Splitter for damage. I want these two so she can knock stuff down and rob it so I can have more loot. So these are where my head's this is where my head's at when I'm building this character. And if you can't look at a pawn and see that thought process from the other character or from the other player in building that character you're looking at that is essentially their ride or die, like if they haven't put the effort in, don't hire that pawn because it won't add anything real to your party comp. And the idea is to, you know, get an effective party and do some real shit in the game. And it's really hard to do if you can't see what is good and what is not. Anyways, that's this video. Hope you guys enjoyed and learned something. If not, cool, whatever. Peace.